Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.
Hello and welcome to Enterprise Morning on Enterprise TV. I am Henry Igwibike. Right about now, we're going to what we have on our newspaper headlines. But just before we do that, I have Mr. Elvis Elimi Hele, a seasoned journalist and a public affairs analyst, to do justice to our newspaper headlines today. Mr. Elvis, you're welcome.
Good morning.
To Enterprise Morning.
Thanks
for having you. Now, let us start off with the first daily we have today, and it is from The Nation. The big story there says, treason trial, why Supreme Court reversed acquittal. And on the right, we have berates FG over extraordinary rendition from Kenya. And on the top sleep, we have Rivers crisis, fresh resignation, deplete Fubara's cabinet. And still on the top sleep of the same newspaper, we have northern governors to FG end banditry terrorism now. And on the down sleep of the same newspaper, we have states celebrate as November FAAC that the FAC allocation tops 1 trillion naira. Mr. Elvis, let's go to the big story for today. And the big story, of course, says treason trial, why Supreme Court reverse acquittal. What do you have to say, and how can you make sense of this headline?
Well, I wasn't expecting anything less than what came out yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, because I know too well that the trial of Nnamdi Kanu has been so politicized.
Okay.
And at this stage, the president will have to, play smartly.
Okay.
He might not want to infringe on the right of another arm of government, which is the judiciary. There was some clamor, and some appeal from the our Eastern brothers that Nnamdi Kanu should be released yesterday.
Okay.
And if the Supreme Court has done that, Nigerians will be saying that the executive also hijacked the judiciary again. So I think the president may come in another form. We might see him granting him amnesty sometime, but not the one that everybody was just like yesterday. If you look at the papers, listen to radios and newspapers and televisions, everybody were like, the president cannot interfere in another arm of government, legitimately, because these are three arms and they must work independently. So I think they are playing safe. The case is going back to the High Court, like start all over again. You saw what happened in Dasuki's matter. Exactly. Dasuki was going to court at the time, ECOWAS court and all of them were granting him bail and all that. The President Muhammadu Buhari got calm. But from the blues, he came up and released Dasuki. Today, nobody has said anything about that. Something like that may come. Okay. I know too well that even the Eastern political bigwigs are also meeting and rallying around. And another idea is going to come up, and the president will want to do that, especially when it's coming closer to 2027 general election, to gain popularity. What politicians do.
Yes.
And to have a kind of praise singing that, he released Nnamdi Kanu. But for now, he didn't want to mend into the affairs of the judiciary.
But do you sense any sort of security in the country as the reason for that? Of course, we all understand the precedents that Mr. Kanu has played. Do you think the issue of national security could be a possible reason why the Supreme Court has refused him bail?
Well, that's part of it. But on the other way, people would have been talking about let the Supreme Court release him so that this insecurity in the Southeast can come down. Then anybody that is found for mental trouble will be dealt with as a criminal.
As a criminal.
Yeah, yes. But that did not play out yesterday. But what we are seeing is that the security of the nation is not beyond the government. So the government will still play its role until the president deem it fit if he's going to grant him amnesty. We are talking of treasonable charges here. And when you are talking of treason, it's only the president that can do that. Yes, the power to do that. So when the time is ripe enough for him to say Nnamdi Kanu should be released from the prison, you will also be here to analyze that.
Very true. Now let's move to another issue on the same newspaper, The Nations, and there it says Rivers crisis, a fresh resignation deplete Fubara's cabinet. Do you think that would in any way, because of course we all know that about 27 lawmakers defected to the APC, 2 came back, so which means we have 25 absentee in the hollow chambers there. Now commissioners are beginning to to jump ship. If the lawmakers didn't affect, or the consequences of the lawmakers leaving or defecting didn't affect Fubara, do you think commissioners asking or desiring to leave will equally affect him?
Not at all. The leaving of the commissioner is even like an added advantage to Fubara's government.
How?
Yes. These commissioners that are leaving were actually imposed on him by the emperor, in quotes, Wike, when he was leaving. So now, the decisions and the discussions within the government, Wike in Abuja won't be having the first-hand information of what is going on in Rivers. So these commissioners that are left his cabinet are kind of advantage to Fubara, because Fubara has 4 years, first 4 years, and he has to assert his assertion as the governor, executive governor of Rivers State, elected by Rivers people, not elected by Wike and the resigning commissioners and the defeated legislators. The Rivers people gave him their vote, and as a result, he must do the bidding of the Rivers people. So their leaving has no effect on Fubara's government. There are so many Rivers people, indigenes, that are qualified as those that left the cabinet now, that Fubara will bring in and shore up his cabinet. So I don't see any lacuna, I don't see any disadvantage to Fubara in the leaving of the cabinet members. Yes.
All right. So let's move on to a second daily for today, and that is on the Punch. And on the Punch, we have the big story: how Fubara fell out with Wike. On the right, we have ex-governor imposed commissioners, advisors, orders on successor. And still on the right, we have federal lawmakers protest as Tinubu to intervene. Why National Assembly can't act yet, reps spokesperson. And on the top sleeve of the same newspaper, The Punch, we have Ohaneze, not Supreme Court for upholding Kanu's terrorism and trial. We just finished discussing about Fubara and his, and I would love us to dig deep more into that. What do you think of the political career of Wike going forward?
At this moment, it's dicey, because if you look at it, the APC that Nigerians are like, he is, trying to send, like in the Bible we call John the Baptist the forerunner of Jesus. Like he is trying to send his legislators that are loyal to him ahead of his coming. And even the cabinet members, the commissioners we saw resigning yesterday, like, okay, go and pave the ground before I move in into APC. But the APC is, even some of the APC is rejecting that. They don't need him.
Exactly.
That he was the one that is fomented trouble that made APC not to even have billboard during the election in Rivers State. Yes. And at the day Buhari came in to campaign in Rivers, the airport was shut down and Port Harcourt was in chaos. And with all this, I may describe it like a bat. A bat is neither a mama and is neither a bird. So where he is at the moment is dicey. Because what I think strategically they want to use Abuja to control the leadership of APC in Rivers. That is, yes, using Ganduje, the bride that the president brought in as the chairman of APC. But the Rivers APC are standing their ground that Abuja cannot control the leadership of APC in Rivers. So at the moment, there is going to be a stalemate. These ones that are left, remember what the Constitution said, they are losing their seat. Their seats have been declared vacant. And if they cannot prove it in court why they left the PDP, which means another election is going to take place. And what we saw yesterday, there were some pockets of protest yesterday, especially from those that are loyal to the young governor, Fubara. So we are going to see that Fubara is having some kind of advantage with even what is going on now, because he has opportunity to begin. Yesterday he made statement. He's never made statement since Monday when this matter started. But yesterday he said he's in charge of Rivers, and the River he will work to make sure that Rivers people have peace, and that investors should come into Rivers. Rivers is safe for investment. So with what we are seeing in him doing, is going to, these young men, especially the youth, are behind him. And you know what that means in the political situation of this nation. The youth are behind him, and he is going to work on that advantage he has with the youth, to thwart whatever Wike and his cohort are trying to foment from Abuja.
Now, what amazed me the most is his community. I mean, Wike's community from Obia.
Oh, yes.
Okay, are rallying around Fubara.
Yes. Yesterday we saw youth from Obiakpo,
yes,
and some political leaders, briefed the press yesterday that they are not in support of what Wike is doing. Wike has had his 8 years, ideally, and at this time we've had past governors from Rivers. They are not meddling into the affairs of whoever succeeds them. So Wike should step aside.
But we understand the antecedents of people call him the Emperor Wike. We understand his antecedents and his willingness and his desire to get whatever he wants at all costs. Do you think this issue, do you think there's a possibility of this issue, getting worse than what we have today?
Yeah, if it is not handled well, River pride itself as the treasure base of the nation. When we're talking about oil, we're talking about the crude oil, we're talking about Nigeria budget, we're talking about our economic mainstay. Today we still anchor our budget on crude oil sales and all that, and River produces so much of it. Yeah. So and this young man is coming from the riverine part of the River State. So I'm looking at a situation where the federal government should be able to at least come in and make peace, so that oil flow with this 1.78 barrels per day that is used in predicating this budget should be able to flow as expected. Because if this crisis degenerates more than this, who says these young men who are actually not happy with what Wike is doing to the young governor Fubara might be trying to go back to the creek, and that will mean to Nigeria's economy. Exactly. So I think the federal government should come in and find a way to quell this matter. Speak to Wike. The only person that needed to be spoken to in this matter is Wike. Because we saw Fubara, even when this matter started, he apologized to the Rivers and said, this trouble must not continue. But subsequently, anytime Wike has opportunity to brief the press, he kept on telling Nigerians that it is difficult to serve an ingrate. Who is an ingrate? You supported somebody to come into power does not mean that you should take away his right. We are talking about executive governor. Okay, we have an issue in Edo State when Adams Oshomole wanted to become godfather. Yes. And as a result, they tactically withdrew the ticket of the second term of Governor Obaseki from him, yes, sitting governor. Obaseki decamped to PDP. And he went to Delta State to meet Okowa. And Okowa went with him to Wike right there in Rivers when he was the Rivers State governor. They saw that he was being victimized unjustly. And they saw that godfatherism was not fester. He was able to come in along with Godwin Obaseki and campaigned for him, and he got the ticket back in PDP and also won the Edo State governorship election, second tenure. If you can do that for another state, because you felt there was an injustice being meted out on him, why are you not doing it on the young man you say you brought in and calling him ingrate?
But what do you think is really wrong with our leaders? Because it seems like we keep going in circles. So someone who was formerly against godfatherism, yes, at the end of the day wants to become a godfather
himself.
And when he is being told, you are repeating the mistakes that you faced, so why do you think this? We keep having this issue recurring every other time in our politics?
Yeah, the problem we have is that we are very greedy. Most politicians don't want to lose stake of their state. The only industry politicians know is government and government coffers and government affairs. That's the only industry they know. Like I was listening to former governor of Ekiti State some time ago, Ayodele Fayose. He said, go and ask politicians if they leave power for 2 years. Go and ask them what they are feeling. So they sometimes they look at some of their colleagues who have left power, who have become redundant. Somebody like, do you hear of Sleeve and Chime? Chime of former governor of Enugu
State.
I mean, did you hear of him? So these are some of the issues that when they are there, they try as much as possible to guide against such. And some of them emulate the present president of Nigeria now, the way he has been relevant since 1999 to 2007 to where he became president now. So they also want to start having that kind of strategies. If President Tinubu can do it, all this, then let me also see if I can, key into his political strategies and see if I can hold on to my state.
But that is depleting our political culture.
No, absolutely. When they are doing it, they try to take away the people. When you take away the people from democracy, you are calling for anarchy. Because the democracy, everything about democracy, surrounds the people. It's the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So if you take away people at any time in democracy, you are calling for anarchy. That's what we are trying to guide against now in Rivers, when everybody is like, President, talk to your minister, Wiki.
How possible it is, it still remains an issue, and if it's even possible in the first place for Wike to listen to his boss, Mr. Tinubu, is still another issue that calls for a discussion. But let's go to our final daily for today, and that is on Daily Trust. And the big story there says, student BBS strike, families recount experience, call for government assistance. On the top left, a slip of the same newspaper, we have Ondo government of quagmire recalling stalemate during Yaradua, Suntai and the Buhari. On the top right, ECOWAS suspends Niger, insist on civil rule. Mr. Elvis, let's go to our neighboring countries for a bit and get the opportunity of equally talking about them. And it says ECOWAS suspends Niger, insist on civil rule. Now, it's still the same thing, because Nigeria is actually a macrocosm of what happens in the in the larger world. One thing with Africa is that we keep making the same mistake and hoping that we'll get better results out of it. Of course, we understand the reason why there was coup in the first place in Niger, because of leadership inefficiency, leadership
failure.
Yeah. So why do you think the ECOWAS finds it difficult to understand that this is the crux of the matter?
Yeah, you see, you cannot separate darkness if there is no light. It's only light that takes away darkness. Most of the ECOWAS leaders don't want to speak the truth to power. What is happening, what is playing along the West Coast now, especially the ECOWAS country, that you are seeing military coming into power, as the citizens of those countries, they tell you there is practically like no government in those countries. We saw Niger that we are using as that came up in the news now. Throughout the time of the president that was just removed, the people were like, in deserts. The suffering was much. 70% of the young men you see ride motorcycles in Nigeria here, Okada. Yes. They are actually Nigerians.
In spite of how rich the country is with lots of natural resources.
So when the president sits there and refuses to feel the plight of the people, things of this nature will happen. So that's why I told you earlier that democracy, the people won't sit. So when the people say they are tired, look at even when the military juntas are suspended by the ECOWAS, the country is functioning because they got the backing of the people. The people are happy with the military even more than the democratically elected government, which shows that the government itself has failed and it became unpopular. Once government is unpopular with the people, things of that nature happened. Well, if the people were not with the government, by now you would have been hearing protests.
Yeah,
and the junta's regime would have been weakened with protest. But the people are happy with the government in spite of the sanction, in spite of the suffering they are going through. They know one day ECOWAS will be tired. We're talking of invading it. That at one point, at the time it went down, the people were ready to defend their country. Now it's the sanction. Over a period of time, the sanction will also ease out. Countries like Mali, Burkina Faso are in support. Yes. So whatever they can galvanize from these three countries that at least they feel they are like best together, they flux together, they will be able to survive, and they'll be surviving. And I even read that their economy has started building better than when it was under the civilian administration, because they've started, realizing the importance of the minerals they have in their country and how they have to make good use of it to be able to meet the yearnings and aspirations of the people. So ECOWAS leadership should look into talking to their members on taking the people first. Making the people to realize that they own the government, that the government is whoever the president or the governors of whatever their states are just custodians. They are just like, hold it for me, for the people. So by the time you take the people out of it, what happened in Niger will still happen in more of African countries.
Like you did say, the economy of Niger is beginning to build up, you understand. Now, I do not know who made the postulate that states the best military rule. The best military rule is worse than the best democracy. It's worse than democratic rule. The democratic government. Okay. Yes, that's what they say, that the best military is worse than the best the democratic government. Yes, the best military rule is worse than the democratic government. The worst military government.
I think that person should be thinking twice now, because we saw the Burkina Faso coup, the Mali coup, and the people are not revolting in any form. You saw what happened in Gabon that day too, even when the president Mabongo was calling on make noise, shouting, make noise, that he's being held up and his family. Nobody assisted him to make noise, because the people are happy that the person who have held them over the years is going to leave. So now, you see, the issue we have is that democracy in this part of Africa must not be practiced exactly the same way it is practiced in the Western world. We have to look into the way it will favor our people. It is not the way we just copy and paste and bring it here to execute. I think that's what we are seeing.
Yes.
Military incursions coming in, people are happy with them because they believe that what we could not get in democracy, the military government can give it to us, then so be it.
Because why I'm very, very concerned about this, at least I grew up in the 80s and during the military rule. At least at the time, I remember very vividly. You can always turn up your tap and there's water there. Amenities were there, infrastructures were being built during the military rule. Do you think, this is just us just having our opinion, do you think in West Africa that the military, do you think it's becoming
it is just that we have freedom, there's any word like that, with the democracy than the military. Okay. But if you are talking of infrastructure, let us be factual. Nigeria as it is, let's take our country as an example. We have had more of military rule than democratic rule in this nation. So that means the development you've seen in Nigeria so far was actually done by the military. Think of the third mainland of this world.
Yes, exactly.
Have we had such a gigantic project since 1990? This civilian government came in. Think of the Murtala Mohammed Airport of this world. You understand? Think of the Tinker ports and all of that. Yes. So these are projects that Nigerians are like, what can we are talking about Nigerians cannot even move from one state to another now because of bad roads.
Bad roads and insecurity too.
No, let's even leave this. But let's talk of infrastructure. You just made mention of tap water. I still know too well that till 1990, I have tap in my town.
Yes.
Till 1990, that was the work during the military regime. Since the democratic government that we saw here for came in now, if you get to my town now, somebody will prefer to give you a bottle of soft drink faster than a cup of water.
True.
So
very true.
If you put all these parameters in place, you will begin to say that the military have fared well in terms of infrastructure in Nigeria than the democratic government. Look at what the retinue of people they service. Look at the 160 million that just went into the National Assembly for buying us SUVs for the number of persons in the National Assembly.
This money that should have gone to infrastructure.
Okay, how many people actually make up Supreme Military Council during the military? How many people make up? There are few. Or the Armed Forces Ruling Council, as it was called during the IBB's time. So this servicing 109 senators and another 360 legislators are not there. Remember, that is actually the only arm of government that is not present in the military.
True.
You still have the judiciary and still have the executive. Yes. So that is where our problem lies. By the time you win from your constituency, you pack all your load and you move down to Abuja. The house is waiting for you, the car is waiting for you, the domestic staffs are there, and even your personal PAs are there. So the democracy have come to have so much to service, more than even the military. So then people were talking of corruption. I never heard of any military officer that, apart from Abacha, which has actually now become like a providence for us, is coming back to us. Yeah. That one man will just move loot the whole country billion, like we saw in the former chief accountant of the federation. Yes. So if you put all these things together, you discover some of the reasons why some of these Africans are actually happy when the military comes to power in their countries.
Exactly. This is really an interesting discourse, if you ask me, and I wished we had so much time to do justice to that, but that's just about the time we have on our newspaper review this morning. Of course, I'd love to say thank you, Mr. Elvis Elimihele, for always coming around on our program today. And when we come back, Nigeria's Supreme Court on December 15 overturned a judgment by a lower court that dropped terrorism charges against separatist leader Nnamdi Kanu, ruling that trials on the charges should continue. We'll be right back. Please don't go anywhere. It is Enterprise Morning on Enterprise TV.
Enterprise TV, your one-stop shop for news, programs, human angle stories, the economy, sports, and much more. We go the extra mile to bring incredible details to you. So hop on the train now. Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.